Welcome back, movie lovers. I'm Josh.
I'm Chris.
And with our powers combined, we are
Garner Brothers Movie Lovers.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad you joined us. Don't forget to like and share and do all the things. How's Iowa, Chris?
Still there.
How's your family adjusting to the land of endless corn?
We're good. We went to
Sounds good.
huge corn maze farm place. It was awesome.
Nice. That's probably the greatest corn mazes in all of the land there.
It was a good one.
You guys doing anything else for Halloween this year? You gonna see any scary movies?
Oh, I don't
We
know.
We did see a
We
scary
just
movie.
did. That's what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Well, maybe this is our Halloween episode. I guess. Today we are going to review A Haunting in Venice. This is the third film in the Agatha Christie murder mysteries with the crime detective Hercule Poirot and his fabulous mustache. But this one has a bit of a horror twist to it. Not a bit of a horror twist. This is like this is a horror movie, straight up. And you know what? I've been wanting a franchise to commit and do something like this, branch out and do a different genre of film. The Marvel franchise keeps teasing it, and it's like, nah, it's got some horror elements, but they didn't really commit to it. This is total commitment from a standard murder mystery to a straight up horror murder mystery. And I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
And it is still a murder mystery. Like, it has all those tropes too.
Classic murder mystery for sure.
But it also, like, it leans into the horror pretty good.
And I think it made it way more interesting of a sequel than the second one, which was Death on the Nile, I think.
Agreed.
This was a long-awaited thing for me, which is kind of a weird niche thing to be wanting out of a movie. But this scratched that itch for me.
So this film is directed and stars Kenneth Branagh, just like the previous two. This one also stars Michelle Yeoh and Tina Fey and Jamie Dornan and Jude Hill, who were both in Belfast together, and Kelly Riley and a bunch of other people that were all very good. Oh, and the film is scored by Hildur Daughter. I don't know how to say her last name. And I just have to say, as a big movie music nerd, I was supremely disappointed that Patrick Doyle didn't score this, because Patrick Doyle has scored every Kenneth Branagh movie other than this and Belfast. And Belfast was all songs, and I don't know why he didn't score this. I hope it was because he was busy doing something else, but I mean, good for Hildur Daughter for getting this film, and it's different than most of the things she's done before, and it's probably my favorite thing she's done so far, but she didn't do anything that Patrick Doyle wouldn't have done better, so I was really sorry that he wasn't on this one. But
yeah, I didn't even notice that kid from Belfast was in this movie. I mean,
he's the little boy with the glasses, the very grown-up little boy.
For sure. Like, I recognize who he is now that you mention it, but I didn't know that that's who that kid was. And he's like, he's good, man. That little kid's good.
Yes, he is good.
Let's talk about the movie. Some good and some bad.
As far as plotting goes, I'd say this is probably the best Poirot film that Kenneth Branagh has done. The storyline is very solid, and I kept wondering, because they lean into the horror so hard here, and we're talking ghosts, and I wasn't sure how they were going to pull this off, because Poirot is such a rational thinker, and this movie is just totally all in on the ghosts, and I just thought, how are they going to make this work? But they really did.
They did.
It was very impressive. Very impressive.
It's going to be kind of hard for me to talk about this movie without spoiling stuff, because you really don't want to spoil murder mystery stuff.
No, you don't.
So it'll be kind of tricky to do that, but I'm going to really love talking in the spoiler section about this movie. I agree with everything you just said. I went into this movie with a certain expectation, believing that it had to be rationally explained. And because it's a Kenneth Branagh, Hercule Poirot murder mystery, it can't be mystical and magic. I wasn't confident of that as we continued through the movie, and things just started really getting spooky and weird. And, you know, he would rationally explain something and you were like, oh, okay, that's pretty tricky. And then all of a sudden something freaky would happen. He wasn't able to explain everything and you were just sitting there wondering, how is this going to happen? And it was a really fun spin on this kind of a film.
Well, and he's struggling so much with what he's seeing, and he's starting to wonder if he's going mad, you know? Like, yeah. I mean, and you as the audience are in kind of the same place. Yeah. Like, you're like, what is going on? Is this real? Is this not? Holy cow. It's
absolutely
super creepy. And Branagh does an amazing job with the creepiness. That whole vibe, the movie is really creepy.
They have a line at the beginning of the movie that sets up a conflict.
If there is a ghost, there is a soul. If there is a soul, there is a God who made it.
So he's connected the idea of there being a rational explanation to whether or not God exists.
But I have seen too much of the world, and I conclude, no God, no ghosts, no mediums who can speak to them.
Whether you believe in God or not, depending on the way they end this movie, whoever's in the audience might be a little conflicted on the way they feel about the ending. I certainly felt that way. You said that you think this was the best written Agatha Christie movie, and I said when I walked out of the movie that this was my favorite Kenneth Branagh Poirot murder mystery movie. I think I like it better than the first. I definitely like it better than the second. The second was a bit of a disappointment for me. Tina Fey's hilarious, which was really nice to have because there's some freaky stuff in this movie. And then every once in a while, Tina Fey will just come in and kind of...
A little chocolate chuck you around?
That's not an expression in any language.
We continue.
Really like what they did with her character.
And if you're Josh saying that, you might be thinking she's playing it straight comedic. It's a serious role.
Oh, yeah.
She's not just comedic, but she does have some funny lines. But it was kind of fun to watch. This is by far the most serious I've ever seen Tina Fey in anything. But she still does get some funny lines.
I wanted to mention some cinematography stuff for this movie. There's a specific way you're supposed to frame images in movies. It's just off. It's not quite the way it's supposed to be. It's just kind of upsetting.
In A Haunting in Venice, we tried to find ways to produce that sort of not in the stomach, edge of the seat quality.
Lots of Dutch angles. There's a lot of slanty camera angles.
It sets a tone right from the beginning, and throughout the movie, you know, they'll have the camera kind of spinning in a circle. You subconsciously want it to center where it's supposed to, and everything is framed correctly. But right as it's about to do that, the scene will change to another not quite right picture.
Or there's one scene where it does line up, but then it just keeps going. And it flips completely upside down.
There was times where Kenneth Branagh was able to center something that wasn't the main focus of the scene. So like there's something in the background and you don't think anything of it except that you definitely notice it during the scene, because instead of watching the people, your eye is drawn to whatever this thing is in the background, and then that thing showed up later in the movie to be an important thing that we'll talk about more in spoilers. There was also some symbolic imagery from the very beginning of the movie that lined up with the conclusion that I noticed and really liked. I think Kenneth Branagh is awesome. Just love Kenneth Branagh. I think he did just phenomenal with this movie.
Yeah, he did a lot of cool things. So one of the things that I liked about it was the sound design. And this is a reason to see it in theaters. There is a little girl singing very creepily in the background multiple times during the movie. But the first time you hear her, that audio is pinpointed very specifically behind you in one spot. And it moves. And the first time you hear it, like, it took me a second to realize I was even hearing anything. I kind of thought maybe it was like
someone in the
from
audience.
Another theater, or someone in the audience, or but like just as Poirot is starting to wonder if he's hearing something, I was like, wait, is that in the movie?
You hear that
and
noise,
then it's like,
and then
it's
he kind
moving.
of looks off to the side.
Yeah,
and you're like, is he hearing
and
the people in our theater? He's like, shh.
It was. And that's just the first time it appears, but then like it comes back 3 or 4 more times, and it's a little bit louder every time it comes back.
And every time it was coming from a different like spot in the mansion and a different spot in the theater. It was really cool.
It's real creepy. Yeah, it's very effective.
Yeah.
So, as far as things I didn't love about the movie, if you're not a fan of horror films, and I am generally not, this film is unsettling, it's scary, it's creepy. It's not my favorite kind of movie to watch. And so I don't love being scared. I don't love jump scares. I really don't like jump scares in a mirror. I hate those. So if you don't love horror movies, but you do love murder mysteries, you might not enjoy this just from the horror elements.
Sure.
But the murder mystery element of it is good. And the way it all wraps up is good. So like if you're willing to put yourself through some uncomfortable scariness to get to a good ending for a well-crafted story, this is for you. But I will also say this, and this is true of all of Kenneth Branagh's Poirot mysteries. I miss an element of fun that I really like in murder mysteries that I don't find in his murder mysteries. I haven't read all of Agatha Christie's novels. I always find it kind of fun to read an Agatha Christie murder mystery. That said, murder is not fun. So I want murder mysteries to be fun, but these movies are sad.
This one will be very sad.
All of Kenneth Branagh's murder mysteries are sad, and this movie is really sad, and the story behind it is really sad. So it's not a fun murder mystery like Knives Out. It's very serious. It's much the same tone as the previous two Kenneth Branagh Poirot mysteries. They're not fun, and I guess that's the point. Murder is not fun. But I like murder mysteries to be fun, so I always want these to be, and they're just not. I just have to get over it. That's just not Kenneth Branagh's vision, but I kind of wish it were.
Yes, it is most sad. The truth is sad.
So those are my gripes. It was too scary for me, and it wasn't fun.
And it's a PG-13 horror movie, and it's not anything beyond
so
that.
it's not going to be
People get
over the top.
impaled straight through the body, in one side, out the other, and there's no blood. So whatever. It's PG-13. And I'll say it was exactly what I wanted, and I love horror movies. And if you love horror movies and murder mystery movies, this is going to be like the best. I mean, this was tailor-made for me. I loved this movie from the beginning to the end. The only problems I have with it are nitpicky things that definitely are related to the spoilers. I honestly don't think there's much more we can talk about that's not spoiler related. I think the spoiler section will be longer than most, unless you have anything else you want to say. So let's go ahead and rate it then. It's time for Good, Fine, Bad.
Good! Fine!
Good! Bad!
Fine.
That's bad. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
I think it's good.
Good. I also think it's good. But for me, it's just a little bit better than good. It's not quite Good, Great, Fantastic Fireworks, but it's like knocking on that door. It's close.
It's really good.
If this is your first time watching the video, good means we recommend that you go see this movie in theaters.
I've been disappointed with how few people have been going to see movies this summer, with a couple of exceptions. I just hope, we don't have a platform, so the 50 of you who end up watching this video, would you please go see this movie? If you can handle horror films, you should go see this. This is a good movie. It's better than most that have come out this year.
Support good movies, dang it. If you want to see more good movies, go see the good ones in theaters. And don't go see Fast X. Thanks for liking and subscribing and sharing the video and listening and whatever you did to support us. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time if this is when you're leaving because you don't want to be spoiled. From this point on, we will be talking spoilers. So you've been warned. Get out of here.
You should stop watching if you
more-
haven't seen the film. You really should not get spoiled on this one.
And we
you
say
owe it
that
to
a
yourself
lot.
to go in. But for a murder mystery and a horror movie, murder mystery,
it's more important
really
in
important.
this movie to not listen to the spoils if you haven't seen it.
So seriously, stop watching and go see the film, and then come back and see our reactions to the spoilers.
Yep. Okay, all right, spoilers. I wanted to talk a little bit about the imagery that I saw with the birds. So one of the first...
Do, because I didn't notice that.
So one of the very first clips of the movie is a set of ravens that are on the ground in Venice. And out of nowhere, a white bird comes out and eats one of the ravens and flies away. And I thought, that seems backwards. It seems like they should have done that the other way around. And then later in the finale of the movie, the wicked mother is taken down into the water by the ghost of her daughter. And I think that was a reflection of that imagery at the beginning of the movie, where the raven is eaten by the bird. And then, again, at the very end of the movie, Hercule Poirot is standing in front of a pond, and a white bird floats down and lands in front of him, and then they change the angle, and the bird is gone. And I wondered if that was intentional or not.
Oh, wow, that's really good.
So
now I want to watch it again and look for that.
So first spoiler off the bat, we just ruined who the murderer is, so I really hope you guys have left that now.
Brilliant that Poirot was drugged the whole time.
Yeah.
And it explains all the creepy stuff that he's seeing.
It doesn't explain it all. It explains a lot of it. But it actually, there are some things that are not explained that are kind of left open to your interpretation.
So the movie leaves the audience with the responsibility to decide whether they think any of it was real or not. Because you can explain it all away and say, well, Poirot doesn't know what was real or not because he had taken a hallucinogenic drug. Who knows what really happened at the end of that movie? Maybe it was all fake. But he does leave the movie a believer, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Tina Fey says to him at the end. Like, she can tell, even though he doesn't accept that any of it happened, but he walks away a believer. And he starts taking cases again. And so it does change him. And there are, I think, a couple of evidences that some of the ghost activity really is real, that it's not.
Absolutely.
In his mind.
One of the ones I noticed was again from a bird. So there's a lot of bird talk, I guess, coming from me in this movie. So in the scene where the Asian lady is possessed by the spirit of Alicia Drake, there's a parrot in the room that was the girl's parrot, and they say that the bird has not spoken since Alicia died. But the moment that she becomes possessed, like, the bird says her name, Alicia. But in that moment, the bird spoke. That was one of the times. What's another time?
Poirot sees a little girl and he asks her some questions. He thinks that she's been left behind from the group of kids that was there earlier that night.
Which, if you're planning things for Halloween for little orphanage children, this is a bad one. Don't take them to a potentially actually haunted place where somebody died not too long ago.
He sees her and then she's gone. But later in the film sees a picture of Alicia when she was a girl, and it's her. So he didn't know what she looked like as a girl, but the little girl he sees looks just like her. So how can his mind have conjured that if he didn't know what she looked like?
Yeah. When the ghost comes, grabs the mother, and pulls her off the balcony into the water, we're seeing what Hercule Poirot is seeing. But the next clip you see is down in the water. That's not Hercule Poirot's perspective. You're seeing a ghost drag her down into the water. That's just the film showing you what happened.
I think you could argue that that scene might have been what Poirot was imagining happened or something like that. But you're right.
Do you have any other evidences?
The little boy hears ghosts all the time and sees ghosts. And in one of those scenes where you hear her singing in the background, he says to Poirot, "You heard it, didn't you?" So he clearly was hearing the same thing. So I think there are actually quite a few evidences that the ghosts are real. But Poirot can go away with his rationality intact because he was drugged. So, but he still believes at the end, which is fun.
And I think it satisfies that conflict that they brought up at the beginning. It doesn't really matter whether or not you want there to be evidence that there's a God or whether you want there to be proof that there's not. They've
given you an out
either way. Both. I would like to think that anyone who goes into this movie would be satisfied with the conclusion that they presented. So actually, there was something else I wanted to talk about with the cinematography. There was a moment where Hercule Poirot is talking. They're in the room with the statue and the girl not framed in the center of the screen, but there is something centered in the frame, and it's the shadow of the statue right in the middle of the screen, and I just couldn't stop looking at it. And
that's a brilliant bit of framing.
Yeah. So one of the nitpicky things that I have, the little boy knew that the mother was a murderer. from the beginning of this movie. And so did the father. They both knew because of the autopsy. They knew that there was poison in the body, and the son was even blackmailing the mother. And I think the second somebody dies, one of those two people would have been like, Hercule Poirot, just so you know, she's a murderer and I have proof. But they didn't. They just kept their mouths closed as people kept dying.
So I did not get the impression that the father knew. The father had a bunch of circumstantial evidence but never put two and two together. But the son did, and that's why he was blackmailing her.
And I thought that the father did know, but he wasn't turning her in because he loved her.
I don't know. I want to go back and see it again.
Sure.
Just to
I am going to go.
Because I
go back and see
I don't think he knew, because the moment when he's talking to her on the phone seemed like he was shocked that she would do this, or that she had anything to do with.
He was shocked, but my interpretation was that he was shocked because she was accusing him of blackmailing her, but it was his son.
Yeah, but if the little boy is the only one who knows that the mother was a murderer, I can almost buy it, that he didn't give her up, because he's on the side of the ghosts. He says it several times.
Sure.
Some of them are my friends. They're really mad at her. You know, stuff like that. And so, like, I could see him saying, like, I'm not going to do anything to stop this because I want the ghosts to win. So
maybe I could agree with that after the first murder, but when his own father
not after
dies,
his own father dies, yeah.
Maybe
it's a fair gripe.
It's a nitpicky thing. The rest of, like, that's probably my only gripe, because I had a couple nitpicky things I went through and was like, I'm not sure I understand why this went out the way it did. And I talked about it with everyone I went and saw the movie with, and there was actually a good explanation for all of it, except for that one, in my opinion. So it was written really well. It was awesome. It was a really solid murder mystery. I loved it.
Yes, it was.
I will go back and see this again in theaters. Murder mysteries are a lot of fun to go see a second time, because once you know how it ends, you notice more things throughout the movie. So I will be going back.
That's true. Good murder mysteries are that way.
That's true.
Bad ones.
If you go back and watch Glass Onion a second time, it's fun to see all the stupid things they did wrong.
It's the first. That's true. That's true.
All right. Movie lovers, go out and see this movie. And then go see it again, because it's a murder mystery, and it's a good one. And it would be fun. If you've already seen it, and you didn't notice the pigeons, and you didn't notice these other things, go see it again. And when I said pigeons, I meant ravens. Okay. Thanks for watching and listening and subscribing and leaving a review and sharing this video with everyone in the whole world. Because if you didn't share it with everyone in the whole world, you're not a true supporter of this channel, I would say. But until then...
Pew, pew, pew.
When he runs into, I always forget the actress's name, I always just think of Sarah Palin because of her SNL sketches. Tina Fey.
Tina Fey.
When he runs into Sarah Palin...